Hey guys, welcome back to the Home Turf. Hopefully you're doing good and having a great day. I love you all. I'm so glad you could join me. So today we're actually doing the part 2 of yesterday's video. There was a few things that I was thinking about last night, some really important stuff that I wish I had covered, but I didn't get around to covering. Just because, listen guys, there's so much to talk about when we're talking about how women's futures have been stolen from them that it's hard to cover it all in one video. And so there's a few things that we're talking about today, and I want to start with how women today have portrayed themselves in media such as video games, music, movies, and TV shows. Right? It's a part of social conditioning, right? Not just through social media, but also through other sources of media. Um, uh, Specifically music, because a lot of women in music uh, doesn't really matter what genre. Now it is worse with some genres, namely rap, um, where women will commodify their bodies a lot more than what they will any other genre. But I have seen it as someone who listens to pretty much all music. I have seen quite a bit of this objectification of themselves in these genres, in these live performances, in these music videos, and um, even interviews and stuff. I've seen that kind of shit. Uh, Pretty much wherever women are, they've been convinced to commodify themselves, to objectify themselves for validation, attention, and whatever resources they can get from uh, that attention and validation. And so, what does this tell young women growing up? Well, it tells them that the only way that they can really get by in life is if they commodify themselves, which is so astronomically untrue. Um, and it doesn't help anything. It does not help young women. Actually, it hinders young women, right? Because the whole reason for feminism in the first place was to get away from women commodifying their bodies, or having to commodify their bodies, or being reduced down to objects, right? That was the whole reason for it. And now here it is, full circle again. But you guys have been conditioned to believe that showing your ass, showing your tits, all of this shit is empowering. Reducing yourself down to an object instead of someone else, that is empowering. And it's incredibly brazen, and it's incredibly sad how they've convinced you hand over fist that this is okay. And you're not even asking. I mean, some of you are, right? But most women don't even ask, why the hell am I doing this? Why is it that I believe that this is empowering? Ask yourself the question, why is it that women get more attention when they show a little bit more skin? Now, on the other side of that too, there is a very simple reason for it. Obviously, because because of porn, men have had their minds twisted and warped. That's true. Um, and so, because of that, we naturally give more attention to women who show more skin. Both are victims through social conditioning, right? And so this is the reason why it started off as a men's channel, because men have to change first, right? We have to change first for you, for you ladies to follow, right? We ultimately have to set the example so that you can follow. Yes, we do have to set the example. We have to, because we are the ones that maintain and build societies. We are the ones who do that. It's not to say that you can't, but your responsibility is not to do that. That is not your responsibility. That is our responsibility. That is our purpose. Our purpose is to build and maintain. Your purpose is to nurture. And so, anyways, uh, I hope that the more men wake up and realize how warped and twisted that their minds have became because of such things like porn, that um, that kind of mentality would leave. Um, because deep down, more men are going to care about modesty. And so, for women who are not modest, you guys are screwing yourselves over. If you're wearing these tight leggings, if you're showing a lot of skin, you're not going to be seen as a long-term prospect. You're going to be seen as the girl for the night. I don't think you want to be seen that way, right? So, got to bring modesty back. Everybody has to bring modesty back, both men and women. Got to bring modesty back. So, um, but you see stuff like that in music all the time. Women are objectifying themselves all the time, twerking, stripping, all kinds of shit, right? Um, and then also in TV shows, I look at things that were incredibly insulting, like She-Hulk, where she was literally twerking. I think was it with Cardi B? Was it with Cardi B? I think it was Cardi B. Um, I don't know. I didn't really saw the movie. I didn't really see the movie. I didn't really care to go and see it, anyways. But I thought that was incredibly insulting. That this is how women are portrayed, but it's something that women portray themselves to be as somehow empowering. Again, it's incredibly insulting. Anyways, you see stuff like that. You also see stuff like overbearing wives when it comes to her having to take care of things, right, while the husband is fucking stupid. Um, and then she's she's disrespectful. She is um, uh, disobedient. She is, and not that she's a doormat, but that she is defiant. She is defiant because she doesn't respect her husband, right? Um, and you see a lot of this in sitcom shows, right? Especially today. And I look at the King of Queens, right? And it is funny, but there's kind of a sinister undertone to it, right? Where again the husband is incompetent and he's stupid. He can't do anything right, and she's constantly having to fuss about his problems. And so it's shows like that we see today that also paints a picture for men that women see, and that doesn't help anything for anyone, right? And so another thing is video games, right? This push for female representation, especially when video games started out as more of a man thing. Um, I mainly look at Twitch. When Twitch really took off, there were a lot of gamers, and then women had interjected themselves into that space, not in a healthy way. They ended up commodifying their bodies again, right, showing their tits and all this shit. Um, and they got views. Of course, they got views. Of course, they got views, and they took it. They took it steps and steps and steps further to the point to where they're not even playing video games anymore. They're just in. Excuse me. They're just in kiddie pools and bikinis, and I was like, "What the fuck, man? Why? Why is it? Why is it that some women, or a lot of women actually, will resort to this kind of behavior?" Because it's an easy cop out. That's why. That's why. It's an easy way to make money. Unfortunately, but I've already spoken on how we can change that. Uh, But you know, anyways, you see all these things happening, right? And that also diminishes, a that diminishes you and being a prospect for a long-term committed relationship, because you're not going to be an amaranth, right? Where you're married to some cuck who is fine with you, uh, sharing your body on the internet for everyone to see. You know, average men are not going to respect that, not at all. So, and then you also have other things, such as I talked about politics and policies earlier, and I wanted to get more into that because last night I was thinking about how women's sports have been uh, quite literally invaded by men, weak men, who cannot compete um, with other men and are embarrassed uh, to even try, and so they would rather take the glory from women, which is something that is uh, one of the lowest things you can do as a man. I mean, you can't even really be called a man at that point. And so we have all of these men who put a dress on, who put a wig on, and call themselves a woman, and then they go and they perform in sports, women's sports, and they take the glory away from women. And the most crazy part is that women cheer this on. Women, you have been conditioned, and you you have been brainwashed to the point to where your spaces are now being eroded, and the rights to those spaces are also being eroded. Um, because look at that I think she was a swimmer, right? And I I cannot I cannot remember her name every single time I try to think about it. Um, but she was blasted pretty fucking heavily for speaking up about the shit that was going on with this transformer guy. You know, it's just it's so crazy. It really is, and this is happening everywhere, everywhere. Um, and the terrible thing about it is that no one is that women don't even care about women's sports. Mostly don't. I mean, if people are watching sports, they're always going to be watching something that is, male dominated. Football, basketball, baseball. You know, it's a very, it's pretty niche for people to watch. The WNBA or tennis. Or women's tennis, or I mean, volleyball is a different story. Volleyball is a very different story. Um, Especially if they're wearing bikinis, then everyone's watching that. But um, you have sports like the WNBA where not even women watch that, and so most women don't even really care about women's sports, but they'll they'll complain about women's sports all day long. And then or the well, yeah, I mean, yeah, they'll complain about things happening in women's sports all day long, and that's just it's frustrating. It really is. It's frustrating that women would complain about this, but not even really care to know what's going on so much. Um, but you see stuff like that all the time, and women slowly have been eroded down to birthing persons, right? birthing people, people with ovaries, people who can give birth, and that is something that is incredibly insulting. Um, so, I mean, you're the whole view of what a woman is no longer. Well, I mean, the very fact that society today has no idea what a woman is or what a man is incredibly dystopian. But um, the fact that people absolutely refuse to answer what a woman is incredibly insulting, and this was brought about by women because women have been subject to their emotions by these politicians playing on them, and you know, you guys have been you guys have been played for a fool, and this is what happened. Um, and you're actively voting against your best interests. Like, it's exactly what's happening. Um, so you have all of these things that are happening, and then another thing too is the OnlyFans thing, right? A lot of women are most OnlyFans models, whores really is what they are. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They're whores. They're prostitutes. They're sex workers. That's exactly what they are. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. Um, is they're mainly women. They are. They're mainly women. Um, and this is also considered empowering. Not by average day people, of course, but it's considered empowering by who? The elites of society, by the politicians. Wonder why? Wonder why? Um, so you have all of these things, right? Um, in pornography is another thing too, where women jump into that, and a lot of women are finding out the hard way that if you partake in any of this stuff, your future is pretty bleak. Your future is pretty bleak. I remember there was an interview that this OnlyFans chick did with her brother, and her brother was literally crying in front of her and said that you aren't the one that's only affected by this. People are bullying me now in school, and this is your fault. And he said he wanted nothing to do with her anymore and walked out. Um, Pretty much destroying that relationship. So, um, this is the problem. This is one of the biggest problems. Is that you have been convinced to commodify your body again through all of these different things, um, for uh, quick and easy money, for attention, validation, um, especially through Instagram too. A lot of women use Instagram for this as well. But you see all these things happening, and it's considered empowerment, right? That any man that would tell you not to do this is them holding you back. But morals and logic and reasoning has been twisted so much, distorted so much, that um, this idea of free will overrides, or I should say, free will and free spiritness has overwritten um, what it meant to be moral, right? To be modest. Um, so, um, And then here they are, and well, here you are actively voting against your own self-interest, so much so to the point to where you're not even seen as a woman anymore. You're just seen as someone who can give birth. Essentially, starting from square one and then coming all the way back to square one. It's just a giant circle these days. So you've been convinced to hate men simply just because they're men. You have been convinced to commodify your body in every single aspect of life. You have been convinced to victimize yourself in any way that you can, and then use your body to get out of this victimhood, right? You have been told and convinced that your body is nothing but a tool to be used to garnish resources from men, or to get attention and validation. And what made women truly women is no longer valid here. There is hardly any femininity left here in the Western world, at least. There are a few cases of femininity, around, of course, but the vast majority of women these days have no idea how to cook. They have no idea how to clean. They have no idea how to truly be submissive. You guys have been convinced to be confrontational, matter of fact. And this is where the misandry is. You have been convinced that men are incompetent, that men are scary, that men are a threat to you, that men are nothing more than a means to an end, that you don't really need men. And so that is naturally going to lead to discrimination, to hatred, and this ultimately strips you of a future with them, with a family where women are happiest. And now you are working in a cubicle, but will eventually be replaced by AI because let's face it, women, they're not working jobs that actively help maintain society. You're not working in lumber, you're not working in law enforcement, you're not working in firefighting. No, you're working in office jobs, which, white collar jobs that are very soon going to be replaced by AI. And then guess what? You are going to be without a job. A lot of these women will resort to such things like OnlyFans, to sex work, to all of these other things. Because unfortunately, the way society is today, that is the natural decision that most women are going to make, because that's going to be the only way that they can make money. Because listen, women are not going to be able to compete with men when it comes to laborious jobs like lumber. It's just not going to happen. Not that they can't, but it's just the average woman is not going to be able to compete on an oil rig where you are slinging chains everywhere, heavy chains, right? And so it's just not going to happen. And naturally, a lot of women are going to resort to this. So, anyways, you have been convinced that you are nothing but a birthing persons at this point. And a lot of women are fighting back against this, but this was brought about by women. You have to understand this, that this was brought about by women and allowed to happen because of weak men. Now let's understand this, ladies, is that men allowed this to happen. You have to understand that you have to understand that women have always been at the mercy of men and always will be. Okay? Because again, men build and maintain societies. That's very true. And so your right to vote, right, was granted to you by men. Weak men, of course, but it was granted to you. Um, and so, you know, a lot of women would much rather not really focus on that so much, but it's the truth. It's the absolute truth. Men allowed this to happen, and ultimately, the fault lies with the men. The men allowed you to do all these things, and they continue to allow you to do all these things. And until things change, it's going to continue to get worse. That's why I say men must change first. Because the women are going to do what they can do to get women are going to do what they think they can get away with. And that's just how women are. Um, now, I mean, I should say Western women are anyways. More traditional women overseas aren't going to act that way. Of course, I mean, if men aren't acting the way that they should be, they're going to act out. But that makes sense. But I mean, those are different nuances. But yeah, so women aren't even seen as women today. Pretty much, bottom line, they're seen as tools. They're seen as objects these days. But but women have been convinced themselves that they are empowered because they're tools. So, yeah. And this is how women's futures have been stolen from them. You act like a tool, you get used for. You act like a tool, you get used as a tool, right? You don't get used as anything more than that, right? So, this really speaks to the hookup culture thing. A lot of women, you know, are getting more and more into hookup culture, and they're learning the hard way that it doesn't work. It doesn't work for women, and it doesn't work for men either. So a lot of women are finding this out the hard way, and they become jaded with men. Well, listen, it takes two, right? You have to take accountability for your own actions. And so, you know, but anyways, just so I don't keep going on in circles here, this is how women have had their future stolen from them. You know, you won't have this happy family. Well, I mean, you have more of a you have more of an opportunity, right, for a better life than what men do. Because men are more men are more likely to come to your rescue, or anyone is more likely to come to your rescue than they are for men. You have more afforded to you simply on the virtue of being a woman than you do, or than men do. And so you're going to get more of an out. But there is a caveat to that, right? This isn't going to happen for every woman. It's not. It's only going to happen for the prettiest ones. There's a reason for that. Beauty, youth and beauty is valued very heavily in society. That's why a lot of Instagram models get everywhere in life. So, just keep that in mind, guys. And that's just reality. That's just reality. So, but yeah, for the average woman, that's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Not so often, anyways. It could be here and there, but it's not going to happen as nearly as often. But yeah, this is how your futures have been stolen from you. And it's these elites of society that has stolen it from you. Right? I mentioned weak men, and those are typically the elites of society, the ones who sit behind desks and sign off bills, the ones who are sitting at the top of the hedge funds, who are, you know, watching all of this go down, um, and you know, they're the ones who allowed this to happen. I mentioned the people at the top of the hedge funds because of the oligarchy that is here and here very present. At least, well, I mean, definitely here in the westerns, here here in the Western civilization, but specifically here in America, this oligarchy who, you know, buys off these politicians in order to, you know, push their agendas. Um, and so, I mean, you have all of this that's been happening over the past 100 years or so. That's cultivated to this point, and so, you know, things have to change. Things have to change, right? And I'm hoping that the things that I'm doing here on the channel here is really making a difference. I really do. I really do. But men have to change first, and you guys have to follow. And that's just how it has to happen. How it has to happen. So, but that's gonna go ahead and wrap it up, guys. If I happen to miss anything, please let me know. Plus, if you happen to have any thoughts on this, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you want me to talk about anything else, if you happen to have any questions, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to cover it, guys. Make sure you are taking care of yourselves. Okay, both mind and body. Take care of your. Yes, take care of yourselves, both mind and body. Take care of each other. All right. If you need me for anything, just reach out. I'm always here. My door's always open. I wish you all a lovely day. You guys take care again, and I'll talk to you guys soon.